Hi, I'm Bernie Hesse. I'm with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 789. We're a union that represents 7,000 workers in the East Metro, Greater Minnesota, and over in Wisconsin. And we represent workers in three sectors: retail, also long-term care, and food processing and meat packing. And we have a small industrial group that does manufacturing and some laundry work. Anyways, it's good to be back this month. There's a lot of stuff popping in the world of labor. I thought I'd start off with talking about some federal issues, then talk about our agenda in the State House in Minnesota, how it might also affect workers in Wisconsin, and then just close off with some local initiatives that we're working on also. On the federal level, Senator Al Franken has introduced a bill called Strengthening Our Economy Through the Employment and Development Act. And basically, it's a job subsidy bill that was used with some very good success in the early 80s. And what it does is it provides up to 50% of an employer's wages for a worker for a new job that's created. And it's 50% up to $12 an hour. And this is with companies with less than 500 employees, so it's not the Walmart and Targets of the world, but rather small manufacturing, certainly some retail settings. Also, long-term care could be affected by this, and some service sector jobs. And this would be for folks that have exhausted their unemployment. It would be a new job created by a business that wants to, kickstart, jump back into the economy. And it's estimated that in Minnesota, we could actually create 15,000 new jobs. Governor Perpich had introduced this back in the early 80s when we experienced a recession, and we were trying to prod businesses along to create some new positions. And it was very successful back then. And we hope, stay tuned on that, we'll give you updates. Often federal legislation moves at a glacial pace, and we will certainly have a discussion about that next month. Just a couple more updates. An excellent publication to read, and you can get it online, but I'd also encourage you to get a subscription, is Labor Notes. It's a national publication put out for workers by workers. Often it's a series on troublemakers or people that are resisting the corporate powers that be. This month in it, there's anger boiling over the health care debate, also the inactivity of our elected friends to move any meaningful health care resolution on that. Also, I'd like to highlight the fact that the 2010 Labor Notes Conference is coming up in Detroit, Michigan. It's going to be in April 23rd, 25th. I attended a few years ago, and it was well worth it. A number of other things this month is talking about the decline of pattern bargaining and how labor needs to step up again and have a broad and be bold and a good vision for bargaining, but also for representing working people. Some very good articles on reform within the Chicago School District with teachers who are standing up to some of these mandates that just aren't working, that are coming down. And then also there's an article that at the end of the publication on low-wage workers and how a number of coalitions out of New York are responding to wage theft, people being cheated out of their wages, and trying to do some organizing within that community. I'd kind of like to slide into what we're working on up with the Minnesota legislature this year. And a number of these bills are being patterned after other things, such as Wisconsin last year passed a law that would allow for the teaching of labor history in the school system, and the ability for teachers to plug into that to show kids and other folks where the 8-hour day came from, where unemployment insurance came from, and safety laws. We're working on a ton of different bills that we're following, supporting, and also some bills that we are fighting against. We are working on a prohibited termination bill, which would protect workers from being discharged if they called in sick with H1N1. We're working on a business screening service bill, which is a background check. So if you applied for to rent an apartment or a job, and the company would have to tell you they're doing a background check on you and to show you that background check so you could correct any false or information that's no longer current. We also have a bill in place on the ability for workers to take bathroom breaks and to have a meal. Right now that's not a state law or a right, and we feel it's very important for workplace safety and dignity for workers to be able to do that. With so many folks out of work right now, there's going to be an extension or the ability for the state to pick up your COBRA, subsidy on your COBRA premium if you've been laid off to carry your health insurance. We're also working on some economic development. There's always bills around elections, and a number of groups have brought forward some legislation that would, we feel, discourage voter turnout. And a lot of this is around the photo ID and the allegations that there's widespread voter fraud. We know that isn't true, and we will do our best to make sure that this bill is not progressed through the whole process. There has been a large discussion about general assistance medical care in the state of Minnesota that's being discontinued. A bill's been introduced to fund that, and we will be moving that along, and hopefully the folks that are very low income will have the ability to have medical assistance without running to the emergency room when emergencies arise. Finally, we're also looking into some recycling bills that would reintroduce returnables that would help clean up our waste streams, reduce the amount of things that are just thrown or incinerated, and create some green jobs. This week and a couple more weeks, we'll be working and trying to move and advance a bill that would pay for paid sick days. Right now, a vast majority of workers don't have the ability to take time off from work without taking a huge financial hit, sometimes being disciplined for it, and also leaving their kids behind who might be sick also. Along the long-term care lines, we're working on some staffing bills to reduce the amount of falls in nursing homes. And every year there's this push and pull about funding nursing homes and the ability to properly care for the residents there. And you know, in a year that there's going to be a huge budget cut, we stand vigilant to stand and protect not only the residents but the workers that work in long-term care, and that it's properly staffed and compensated. Finally, moving back to one federal issue, we know there's going to be some additional bills introduced around trade, and we will be working in coalition with the Minnesota Fair Trade Coalition, which is part of a larger coalition nationwide, and we will make sure that anything that is introduced as the ability for to monitor labor standards in other countries, the ability not to impact or job loss in our countries, and then finally to make sure that it works not only for the businesses but for the farmers and workers involved. That's about it. Bernie Hesse giving you an update on what's happening in the world of labor. Thank you.